What's up, YouTube? So Arturia just released Pigments 5, which is a free update for all the Pigments 4 users. There's a couple of really cool features in here. It's not too feature-packed, but I think some of these features really do make a big difference. So I want to talk about one in specific, which actually ties into a video that I released not too long ago, which was actually inspired by an AU5 tutorial. I'll post both links in the description. Anyway, let's dive in and have a look. So, of course, if you haven't figured it out yet, today we're talking about the new audio input in the utility engine. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a resonator using the bandpass filters. So here we have the opening setup in Pigments. What we want to do is we want to switch off the wavetable engine. We want to turn on the utility engine. Then we can turn noise 1 off and noise 2 on, which we're going to switch over to audio input. So now if we close this and set up a sidechain input into Pigments like this in Bitwig. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this from this channel where I've prepared a bongo loop. So I quickly want to show you what the loop sounds like before we add Pigments. Okay, so if we set this to pre, it's going to allow us to send the audio signal unaffected by this level. So what that means is now we can turn the volume down and only hear the output from Pigments. So I've also prepared a MIDI over here with some chords. We're just going to slide that onto Pigments. And then what we can do is we can start looking at how we would actually create the sound. So for us to actually hear the audio coming out of Pigments, we're going to need to trigger some kind of note information or something like that. So right now it's just playing the audio straight through. You know, there's no kind of effects or anything that's happening inside Pigments. But what we want to do is we want to set up a filter, which we can use as a kind of resonator. So here what we want to do is we want to set the SEM filter on. We can set the mode down to a bandpass and then turn the resonance all the way up. So then here we want to turn the KBD, this one over here, all the way up. So here we're going to want to set this to about 261, which is roughly the note of C. Okay, so now what we can do is we can use some kind of transpose, which can tune the MIDI of Pigments up and down. And we can use that to kind of choose a pitch range to work with. Let's see if there's maybe another filter that sounds a bit better. Let's go with BP36 multi-mode. Okay, this one sounds a bit more pure tone. Okay, so MPE is one of the new additions in Pigments. So how we set this up is over here in the setup. We click on Enable MPE, and then there's various settings that we can choose over here for how it actually reacts. So then in Bitwig, we need to set up MPE like this. And so notice here we've got the default of pitch bend plus minus 48. We just need to make sure that that relates to the same pitch bend inside Pigments, and we should be good to go. Okay, so here we can put some effects. What I want to do is I want to put a filter here in the effects, but I want to switch this over to a high pass, just so we can remove some of the low end. So now what I want to do is I want to discover which parameters are linked to which in terms of the MPE. So here, for example, we can use the pressure. I believe this should be after touch. I mean, that's what it usually is, but let's just see. Let's assign this to the resonance. Let's turn it down a bit and then turn it up with the assignment. And then let's see if we can actually change it here. Let's maybe give it a bit more range to work with. So we could also add something like a comb filter over here. The problem with this, though, is that this filter will be polyphonic. It's better to actually do the comb filtering or something like that here in the effects, because then we just have like one voice. And then we just key track this one. Just to add like some extra harmonics or buzz in there to kind of sound a little bit more organic. Okay, let's add some shimmer. Okay, so here we have something that sounds kind of harmonic and melodic. If we want to flip it and kind of make it a lot more, you know, atonal or sound like kind of like horror drone kind of thing, we can kind of start to, I'm going to add a full wet reverb here, make it really big. And then we can go into the MIDI and actually play with the pitch of the MPE, so that it's not actually specific kind of harmonics that work with the root note. It's just kind of like more drony sweeps. And then if you're feeling really experimental, what we could do is we could start to time stretch the audio that's here, or not necessarily use like a loop, like a rhythm. We could use like a synth voice or something like that. But check out what happens if we start to slice these into bits and then play with the kind of like audio settings over here, for example. So we could stretch this one out. We can stretch this one. Let's just bounce in place. We can stretch it in, repeat, and do all sorts of interesting techniques. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of Foley sounds in here, actually. So I've got some stuff from DataBrath. The construct pack is really cool. Really nice. Yes. Okay, it might be a bit loud. How sick is that for drones? Weird sound effects and that kind of thing. Really, really cool. Anyway, so what we could also do is just like raw saw waves. That also works with this kind of thing. So here I'm going to add a vital. We're going to add a vital. And we're going to turn this volume down. And then in pigments, we're going to say add the input from vital pre. Cool. So the trick here is to go really low frequencies. We can actually lower the frequency even more by going into the advanced, turning this down to 48. Then this is actually minus 48. Okay, so some of the new features, apart from the audio input, are sequencer lock and new presets specifically just for the sequencer section, which is really, really cool. Another YouTuber who's actually also doing really good Psytrance tutorials called Ollie Music did a video more outlining some of the more sequence-orientated stuff. I'm going to post a link to that as well in the description. We've also got the initial phase position reset on the wavetables. We've got various GUI enhancements, which I think actually make the biggest difference. It's a lot more fluent to kind of like actually create these sounds in Pigments, whereas I found previously the interface was just a little bit clunky. And they've also added some more factory content from wavetables and samples to actual full-on preset banks. So anyway, I think that about sums it up. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.